So the first question is, how did you get into music production?
Um, I was in high school when I wanted to get into music, but I originally didn't really want to do music per se. Um, I guess the easiest way to say it is that I got into music production because I felt like I really needed a hobby. I was
Okay.
always the nerdy kid in high school. Um, so at some point I decided, oh, I want a hobby that's cool and not nerdy. So I,
Okay.
at the time I was into lots of like Minecraft stuff. Like I was pretty big on it. And at some point I decided, well, I need something that's actually interesting. Because
Yeah.
I had all these other people around me. There was one guy who was like really funny, and there was another dude, and he was like really good at soccer. And I was like, man, I'm good at Minecraft. That sucks. So I'm gonna do music now. Um, and it
Okay.
initially started off with me like DJing. I remember all the way back in the day. There's a producer who's now known as Chime. Are you familiar with them and their
I
music?
am not. I am not at this point,
Okay.
but yeah.
Chime releases on Disciple. It's like a dubstep label.
Okay.
Uh, and in 2012, I think it was, or maybe 2013, um, Chime remixed a bunch of the Minecraft OST. So that's how I found him. Um, but before that, I got into electronic music because of Noise Storm. There was just the song Noise Storm Shockwave was in an intro of some random video, and
Oh
that's
wow.
how I got into electronic music. Um, at the time, Skrillex was also really popular, but I didn't really
Oh
get
yeah.
into Skrillex until after the popularity rolled off. Um,
Gotcha.
so yeah, we had Noise Storm, and then we had the Minecraft EDM remixes, and then the dude that did the remixes, he also had this DJ set where he just mashed up a bunch of stuff, and those guys, they looked pretty young in the video. I now know that they're quite a bit older than me, but they looked pretty young. So I was like, well, they
Gotcha.
have all this sick equipment. It was like two USB DJ controllers and like a Korg Chaos pad. It's like a touch thing. It's like about this size, and had like a touch XY pad with effects, and they
Ooh.
used it during the mix. And they had this YouTube video called um, "The Ultimate Dubstep Mix," and my 13-year-old brain was like, "Oh, I gotta see this ultimate dubstep mix." So I clicked on it, and it was just them mixing for, I don't know, like an hour, I think it was, or 30 minutes. And they would mash up all these tracks, and I was so intrigued by, how all these songs that I liked came together. Like there was a mashup with like a melodic song and a Skrillex drop, and they were like playing at the same time. And I was like,
Oh.
wow, that's like the sickest thing ever. That just works perfectly. And uh, it also had the thing where like both of the songs had fills at the same moment, and the fills also fit. So it was like a double drop, and it fit throughout the whole section. And I thought that was so cool. So then I tried doing that on my phone. Like you had DJ apps and stuff, and well, that's how I got into music production.
Oh wow. That sounds really
So
dope. So you were really obsessed with like how harmonious it like when it comes together, you know? Is what you were talking about. I
yeah,
heard that and I can agree on like relate to that because I am fascinated by the same exact thing of how maybe two separate sounds could be like so different, just so different. But when you put them together, it's just like heaven. But they're so different. It's just so cool. I'm fascinated with stuff like that as well, especially seeing stuff come together. So I love that. That's a freaking great answer. That's awesome.
it reminds me of the Ratatouille scene. It's a Pixar movie. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh yeah, I've
Um,
seen that one.
but nice. Yeah, there's a scene at the start of Ratatouille where uh, what is the protagonist's name again? I think it's like it starts with an R. Remy? Yeah.
Yeah,
Remy
yeah,
the
yeah,
rat. He's like in that house, and he has like a piece of cheese and a strawberry, and then he eats the strawberry and the cheese at the same time.
yeah.
And then there's like this synesthesia animation of like what is experience tasting those two things together are
Oh
like.
yeah,
Yeah, your answer kind of reminded me of that scene. It's
yeah. Oh,
that
got you.
thing is pretty
Yeah.
magical.
That's pretty freaking awesome. I actually liked that movie a lot. It's a really good movie. So that's really fucking sick.
I think it's like the best Pixar movie. It's my
Debatable.
favorite one.
Debatable, but I agree to an extent. It's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. Oh my gosh. Are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
Let's do it. So, how was the music influence with your family? What did your family think about you having a career in music?
Um. So my family, I've told you this before, but I'll tell the story again.
Yeah.
My family, uh, isn't musical. To like, I don't really have any. I mean, they've all like played an instrument as a hobby, but I don't really have any musicians or like theater or like that kind of people in my family. Um, uh, my one of my grandparents was an engineer, and the other uh, granddad is a scientist. So yeah, not really musical corner. And then my parents were both graphic designers. They met at art school.
Yeah.
Um, so I always grew up, with them moving around shit on their computer, like moving cubes and, making an image. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I only decided to get into to music myself later, and I didn't really have any musical background. Um, but I did play drums as a kid. Um,
Ooh.
so from the age, I think it's like 8 to 11, I think, I had drumming class once every 2 weeks. And the first year of that, I absolutely loved it. Oh yeah, also the story how I got into drumming class is pretty funny. A friend coaxed me into it. So I was in primary school, and there was this one guy. He was like a bit of a melodic, sorry, a bit of a manipulative piece of shit sometimes.
Oh God! Holy
and
shit!
he was like, yeah, I play drums now, so I'm the shit. And he would just talk about how he's playing drums all the time. And at some point, I was just like, well, I don't play an instrument. I've never played an instrument in my life. So I just went to my dad and I was like, well, maybe I want to play drums. And he was like, all right, you're gonna do drums. And then I did drums, and I had like a test lesson. I'd never touched an instrument before in my life, and I fucking loved hitting the drums. That
Yeah,
was like the
yeah.
best part. Um, so yeah, I did drumming lessons for a while, um, and for the first year of those drumming lessons, I absolutely loved it. But then after that, I started slacking off and not practicing.
Oh,
Um,
oh, that sucks. That's
so I would
bad.
just show up to class every day, every 2 weeks, and without any practicing, right? And
Yeah.
it happens a lot with people who take classes and instruments. Um, but I was just doing other stuff. And then at some point, the teacher told me, "Hey, I'm going to quit." Um, and I was like, "Shit! I just spent like 1.5 year of time, not doing anything." So he's like, "Yeah, in 1 month, it's gonna be my last lesson ever." And I practiced really hard for that lesson. Like I did everything that he's ever assigned me, and I like completely nailed it. Like I remember I spent like a full week drumming, and then
Oh
the
wow.
last lesson was like really cool, and he was pretty impressed with all the progress I made. And then he was like, "Yeah, well, this is the last lesson,"
Oh God.
and then it was over. So
Well, yeah. Well, damn. I mean, as a
what was
whole,
the
was it a
question
fun
again?
experience? Now we're talking about drumming, but no, that's really interesting because like I want to learn the drums as well, to a good extent. So, was
Oh yeah,
that
I see them
fast?
in the background.
I think yeah, but was it intense and like difficult at any point? Like with it, I can't even imagine.
I don't know, man. I was like a kid. I was just doing it. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, I'm a really mediocre drummer. Like I play average drums. Like I'll be able to fill in for your pop cover band, but I'm not gonna blow everyone away with an epic solo.
Yeah, got you,
Um,
got you.
uh, yeah, and that was about it for my musical background. So DJ mixing was pretty simple because I already knew the concepts of what is a beat and what is a bar, and I noticed like, oh, songs are in fours and eights and 16s. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, the drumming definitely helped when like early on when I just got into music. But
Gotcha.
yeah, later I started playing piano. Um, but that was like when I was 17, so I went a really long time without playing any instrument and just doing music production.
Gotcha. Well, what are your parents' opinion on you getting into music?
My parents' opinion on me getting into music. Well, first of all, they're really supportive
Oh.
of me, which is very nice. And I guess it kind of makes sense because my parents, they had the experience of both of their parents are like, they do jobs that are conventionally really uh, like regarded as good jobs, right? It's like a scientist, engineer, airport operator, and one other thing. Um, so, and then my parents were like, "Yeah, I want to do art. I'm gonna go to art school and do graphic design." Uh, and they had moments where things weren't really working out, and the budget was running dry, so to say. Um, so they respect me going to be a freelancer. Um,
Gotcha.
and in a way, it's kind of similar, like music production and graphic design. Both the creative process and the mindset is similar. And also, you sit at a computer and you move boxes around until it looks right or
Yeah.
sounds right. So
So yeah,
it's
technically speaking, yeah.
in some ways the apple didn't very fall fall from the tree. Yes, that's how you say
Yeah.
it.
Fall very far from the tree. That's a hard thing to say. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm really happy to hear that they're supportive of you. Because, I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
people and a lot of producers and artists that don't have that. So that's freaking awesome. That's great.
yeah.
Freaking,
In that
I
sense,
said
I'm
cute.
I'm kind of privileged because I have a lot of
Privilege.
very good friends who have it rough with that particular topic. Um,
Yeah.
it's more common that people don't have that kind of support.
Yeah. It's sadly very common, but I'm happy to hear about your situation. So how exactly does gaming influence your music?
Um, well, I think it's the well, mostly just the music. Um, I guess I should tell that story about the Super Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, go for it.
yeah, when I was a kid, I had an uncle, and there's a story in the family that he used to be a huge internet pirate. Um,
Go.
so he had this thing where he would bypass the modem so he could like get the internet right from the big cable that's in the street. So he would have absolutely obscene internet speeds in the 90s, and he would use those internet speeds to download everything. Um, and at some point, he got fined, but I don't know exactly how the story ended. I think he resolved it somehow. Um, but when I was a kid, um, my grandpa had all these like old, like crappy office laptops lying around because he kept getting offered them from unis. This is like 2007, so
Oh.
he would, do work at a uni and then he would get like a work package and that would include one of those laptops. So he had like a pile of laptops in his house. They were all like none of those laptops were particularly amazing, but they were all there, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and he would often borrow one of those to my mom. And at some point, my uncle, he saw me playing Flash games, like in the browser, right? I would play like browser Mario because a friend told me about that, and then he was like, "You should play real video games. This is like fake video game." And I was like, "What do you mean? This is Mario." He was like, "No, let me show you." And then he had this this USB stick with like every Super Nintendo game ever on it, um, and he installed a really early emulator. It was like old as hell on one of those crappy laptops, and I would use those laptops to play Super Nintendo games while I was a kid. But a
Wow.
lot of those games were, uh, I obviously played all the classics like Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country, but I also had some like Japan exclusive games that I really liked.
Ooh,
There was
that's
this
cool.
game called Bomberman 5, but the whole game was in Japanese. And I knew how to play it because I played the Flash version of the game. Um,
Oh, so you just picked right
so,
up on it?
well, I knew it was Bomberman, so
Oh.
the biggest challenge was navigating through the menu, and then I could play the game. But all those games they have music composed by Japanese video game composers, right in the 90s, and that music has a very particular aesthetic. Um, and I guess somehow that stuck around with me in my music taste. Um,
Oh.
so I think outside of the fact that my dad used to listen to jazz, the reason I wanted to make jazz EDM is largely because of Haywire. And I think the reason his music hit home so much is because it sounded familiar to me because of those games that I played when I was a kid.
Yeah. No, that's sick. That's awesome that you combine it into, and like you said, you combine the two and you come up with bangers. Like that first song that we just freaking heard, Obsessed. Obsessed. And like I said, I can't believe how quickly that put me in a good mood just to hear it. And so I'm sure there was a lot of influence in that song alone. So that's freaking awesome. I mean, I wish I was all that talented. Are you kidding me? Look at you killing the game. Literally.
Thank
No, but
you.
that's
Yeah,
really
I mean
cool.
that's funny to hear after my story. My origin story was basically just I'm bored of not having a talent. That's like a stupid way to get into something, but yeah,
I think that's the best
that's what
way to get
happened.
into something. You have to, you seem just like the same type of person as me. Maybe not exactly, obviously, but in the sense of it has to be your idea to genuinely get it executed the way you want it to be done, you know? So, like,
Yeah.
you have to want to play the drums. You can't be told to play the drums, to play the drums the best way that you can. And believe it or not, there's not a lot of people like that, but I have met a lot of people like that where it has to be your idea, you know? So if you get tired of not having a talent or whatever you want to call it, like long enough, oh, you'll get a talent eventually. You'll
Yeah,
freaking
yeah.
yeah, because you want it badly enough, and you can. That's awesome. That because I don't know a lot of people like yourself, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh. I have to make a mark so like I know what we talked about, what we didn't. So, oh, that goes perfectly into the next question. So, would you call yourself a fast learner? Do you just pick up on things once you get, into it a little bit and then it's quick and then it's easy?
Um, it depends. I would say it depends. I was actually thinking about this just earlier today. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess I learn fast. Like I hear that sometimes that I'm a quick learner. Um, but for me, it's more like I do the thing that I'm not good at, and then I throw my head against the wall until I get it eventually.
Yeah. So, anyways, going off of you being, or if you consider yourself a quick learner, how is that involved with, jazz? Did you pick that up really quickly?
Um, Actually, no, not at all. It was a bit of a struggle because I didn't really have any jazz background at all. Well, okay, so since I didn't have musical background, I had a really difficult time getting my music to sound the way I wanted it to. Like I knew from the start that I wanted like a blues jazzy influence in my music just because I really liked uh the detail. Like to me, um one of the things that drove me into that direction is, you know, in pop music you always have chords with like free notes, um, but if you have denser chords, it somehow becomes more nuanced and detailed, like the type of atmospheres that you make.
So, what are you not very good at, but you are working to get better at? with anything. It could be music, games, anything you want.
Um, hmm. I'm not really good at um disconnecting myself from work. I think that's my biggest problem. Uh, I burn out quite a lot because I don't think much about taking breaks and properly clearing my mind. Uh, what happens is if I start a project, I'm so laser focused on it that I do it like in one long grind, basically.
Gotcha.
Uh, and sometimes there's just too much stuff, and I crash really hard. And I do that a lot, and I don't really have a good way to clear my mind. Um, but I'm working on improving that. That's
Oh,
like the biggest problem, I think.
oh, I get you. Yeah, breaks are necessary. Especially, and I'm that way too. When I was in school and shit, and I had to get all this homework done, and if I didn't start right at that point when I thought about it and just did it in one big time, I would have never done it. Period. Like end of story. So I mean, I do that with certain things. I mean, writing. I love writing, but I have to do it in like a full, big, long session, you know? And then I tire myself out to oblivion, I pass out, and then I might work on it again, you know? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Are you the type of person to like try to get it all done in one go perfectly?
No. Generally, when I make music, I'll work on one section per day.
Oh, that's smart. That's pretty smart. I
Uh,
mean, that's smart.
there are a lot of people that like make the arrangement first, and then they start polishing it until it sounds right. But usually, when I make music, I make it piece by piece. Like I'll do the chorus, and then I'll do the part after the chorus, and then maybe I'll work on the intro a bit, and then I like tweak and polish each thing individually. It's a bit of a slow way to work. I do the arrangement mock-up thing when I'm in a hurry. Um,
Um,
but otherwise I tend to segment it. And I guess I should specify the problem isn't really that I work too much. It's mostly that I don't allow myself to break properly. So I'll be out somewhere, I'll be taking a walk, and I'll be in the middle of a park and the sun's shining out and there's nobody near me and there's nothing, and I'll be thinking about how to fix that one thing, or I'll be thinking about uh some other problem or some project that I should be doing right now, or that kind of thing.
yeah, no, that's awesome. I know a lot of producers and artists like just like that. I mean, they do the exact same thing, and then they'll try to remember it until they get back, and then put it in there and stuff. But I mean, I don't necessarily think of that as a negative or something necessarily you have to like work on. Like maybe you do, but why do you feel like that's something you have to work on though?
Because it drains you after a while.
Oh.
Like things will become monotonous, and it's a bit hard to explain if you've never experienced it, I suppose. um So I guess I'll give up there. That's totally fine though. I feel like people who if you know, you know, kind of. Um, it's like a psychological trap where you're stuck. Um, it's like you're not good at segmenting the time you spend working and the time you spend doing other things, which means like when you're a freelancer, there's nobody there to tell you, oh, you have to work from 9 to 5, and then you can go home. And then when you're
Oh.
home, you can do something else. But if you're a freelancer, you have to decide that for yourself. And if you're not good at it, not one specific time, like not one moment in your day is either a break or work. It's either all work or all break, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, or it's like a cursed hybrid where you can't decide which one to do. And that's like the worst state to be in, because you're not productive, but you're also not relaxing. Um,
Yeah. That's a
so
good
yeah,
point. That's a
that's
good
the
point.
best way I can explain it.
No, I get that for sure. Like you wanna set up a time for, work, and they have a time to think about it and do put all the thought into it. But you don't want to be thinking about work when you're doing other stuff. No, I get that. I can see that being very tiring as well. Oh my gosh. Oh my loshy losh. Wow. I can't believe it. We're just killing it. We're killing it. It doesn't even feel like it's been that long in my head, which is awesome. Those are the best ones. So, oh my gosh, the next one. Oh my gosh, you just said something like that. That's so funny. So the next question is, how do you calm yourself down?
Um, yeah, it's a bit difficult to say
Yeah, I
because that's
guess.
my big problem.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I need to like hang out with friends and stuff, right? Um, they always help me disconnect from my worries. Because if you're hanging out with somebody, you have the responsibility to be with them. And if you're always like stuck in your head thinking about other stuff, then it's no fun hanging out. So,
Yeah.
hanging out with somebody kind of forces me out of it. Um, and that works sometimes. Uh,
Sometimes.
so that's kind of important. But now during COVID, it's kind of complicated to hang out with people.
Yeah.
Um, so it's become more difficult.
Yeah, what's it like in the Netherlands with the COVID?
Um, it's less insane than in the US. that, that for one. But we're not particularly good at it. There's a very clear split in the population between people who take it very seriously and people who think that all regulations should be abolished. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like in the US there are a lot of people who are like kind of lax about it, but they're like in between. Um, I guess the whole like conspiracy theory thing from the US flew over here, and now there are lots of people that think that 5G gives you coronavirus and stuff.
Oh
Uh,
God.
and it's a bit of an issue also. Like people are getting mentally exhausted from sitting inside so much.
Yeah.
So they're pressuring the government into releasing the regulations, which is going to happen soon. But the numbers are actually not very good right now. Um, so I feel like we're going to enter a bit of a hard mode area before everybody gets properly vaccinated. Like it's going to suck properly for a bit before it gets better.
For
Because
sure.
the whole psychological effect of we're almost there, so now it's like if people try less hard or something like that. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I getcha. That makes sense. In Florida, because I can't speak for like the other states, obviously, but for Florida, like for me personally, I've never met somebody with COVID or anything like that. I've never even seen somebody with it. And especially in Florida, people here don't give a shit. They don't give a fuck. Like even when you go into a gas station or any store, they might be wearing their mask. And people won't say anything, or there's only certain places like the McDonald's that's right across from me. Like they don't give a shit if you're wearing a mask or not when you if you come inside, and that's hella interesting. But if you go to Publix, down like 5 minutes the other way, they are very strict about it, and you can't do anything unless you have one. They have masks ready to give to people if they don't have one. So it's very like, I don't know. Does that make any sense? It's very like people don't care, sadly,
Yeah,
even though people should. Have you ever met somebody with it?
I've actually had it myself last year.
Oh wow!
Um,
Holy shit! Oh my god!
yeah. So I mentioned earlier how my mom is a therapist, um, and she interviewed a businessman, and he carried the virus before the lockdown began. So she got it, and I got it. It was like right at the start of the lockdown. We were both sick as heck.
Oh
Um,
wow!
uh, so it's pretty often that people get COVID and then not much happens. Uh, Maybe you have a bit of a fever for like a week and then you're good. Um, but there's also like a portion of the population that gets seriously sick from it. and I unfortunately belonged in the latter half. Um, it basically felt like I had seasonal flu, but I had it for about a month, maybe a month and a half, instead of the usual 3 or 4 days that I have seasonal flu if
Oh
I
my,
get it.
oh my God.
That was seriously exhausting. So yeah, I don't want to mess around with that shit ever again. No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh my gosh. No, I get you. That's very interesting because, like, people say stories and stuff like that, but that's pretty interesting. So now I can technically say I met somebody that had it. Technically now.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, oh my gosh. So, the next question is one that I specifically wanted to ask you. So, this is just purely I mean, they're all for my knowledge, okay? But this one I was really excited about because I love your opinion on, life and stuff. So, do you believe in God? Are you religious?
Oh man, that is such a controversial question.
I
Um,
know.
I kind of hate you for asking that question.
Oh God.
But
No, don't hate
well,
me.
I personally am an atheist, so I don't believe in God. Um,
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that, I guess.
Okay, I got you. No, I find I guess with controversial topics, a lot of people just don't want to like deal with it. They're like, it's a little controversial. But for me, I love learning, especially about the controversial, because there are so many opinions on it. So that's
Yeah.
very interesting to know. I've only met I think maybe 3 or 4 people like that before, and a lot of them I'm still friends with. Those are like some of the coolest damn people I've ever met. So like that's really interesting. That might also be why you're so interesting to me is because you are atheist. But that's really interesting. Oh my gosh. So the next question is do you think mainstream music or gaming music, whatever you want to say for it, is harder? Which one do you think is a lot more difficult?
Um, I'd say they're different skill sets. So I have produced pop music for writing camps and stuff. Um, so I know a bit what it's like. I personally think writing pop music is hard as fuck because I don't do it a lot. Um, and I always feel like there should be a bit more going on, or I disagree about the top line, even though I'm really bad at writing lyrics. um,
God.
but with pop music, the whole thing is like it has to be really accessible and human, and it has to sound good. It has to sound as good as possible. That's why people who make pop music spend a lot of time. Well, they don't really spend a lot of time, but like the big pop songs are usually mixed and mastered by other people just so they sound good everywhere. Like the ideas in pop music are generally pretty simple, but they have to be like the smoothest, most direct execution of that idea. And I think that's pretty difficult to do right. So I
Gotcha.
look up to people who can do that really quickly and easily, um, without much trouble. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. There was something else I wanted to say. Um, I really appreciate people who can answer all interview questions without falling silent. So I try to
Yeah.
do that. But sometimes I'll
Gotcha.
lose track of my words.
It
Um,
happens. It happens a lot. You're good.
yeah. Um, yeah, so the whole pop music thing is kind of it's mysterious to me in a way, and uh I think it's difficult. I also think it's interesting that people pay a lot of attention to lyrics. Um that's a quality that they usually bring up, but I really don't listen to the lyrical aspect of music much. Um
Oh.
I can probably name the amount of times that I've paid attention to that on one hand. Um I can pay attention to it, but I won't like naturally be inclined to do it. So I'll just listen to music and I'll listen to what's going on in the music, and I'll listen to all the sounds that are used and the arrangement, and how the vibe is and all that. And then the vocal is just like another instrument, and the lyrics they're singing are just the texture of the vocal, kind of. That's how I perceive music most of the time. It'll stand out to me when the lyrics are excessively cheesy,
Yeah.
um, but other than that, I'm good. Um, I mentioned Porter Robinson earlier, but he's like one of the only artists where I listen to the lyrics and I'm like, yeah, this speaks to me, and it like the lyrics themselves add something to the experience for me. But usually I don't really pay attention to it inherently. Um, so yeah, that makes pop music more difficult as well, I think.
Okay,
um,
that's very
but
interesting.
that's just for me specifically, right? Um,
Yeah.
so like when it comes to game music, or yeah, you called it game music, but like jazzy, high energy stuff that I do as inverted silence right now. Um,
Okay.
both of these things require. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, with pop music, they usually spend a lot of time making sure the vocals are perfect, because other
Yeah.
people pay a lot of attention to what the lyrics are like. So they'll record the same vocal take like 6 or 7 times and pan it around and process it in different ways. So like the whole song is basically the vocal, and then the instrumental is like only there to service the vocal. And I think like video gaming or like jazz
Eh,
fusion music is like inherently uh different from that, but it's
oh.
difficult in a different way, I guess. Yeah, because if you do like jazzy stuff, you have to know all the theory, and if you make EDM, you have to know a lot about like sound design and mixing. So they're just different skill sets.
Yeah. I think that all of them both, or any music in general, I feel like you have to understand the basis or the basics of it, of music in general, to even be able to do either one of them, you know?
Yeah,
I feel like those skills are always going to be necessary, always going to be um, or always going to be looked at. Whether it's music for gaming, whether it's music for the radio, whether it's music, whatever it is, but I that's think that's awesome. So freaking pop. Well, make sure I'll put that there. Eh, I'm writing it down. I try to write down so much stuff because of the brain damage. It's like it can be so difficult, But like for example, like when we had that first meetup, before the interview, of course, I that is gone from my mind. Like I can't tell you anything about it anymore, but that's my day-to-day life. That's how I have to live, and it can
wow.
piss off people. Like some people will be like, "How do you not remember that? That meant a lot to me." And I'll look at them and I'll be like, "I'm so sorry. I just don't. It's just that's not possible for me." So unless I write it down or something like that, but yeah.
Yeah, that seems
It,
rough.
it depends on how you look at it. Some people are jealous because I forget everything. So whether something bad happens to me, I'll wake up the next day as if nothing happened, and they envy
Yeah,
that. Very jealous, but at the same time, it's extremely difficult for me to learn something. I have to put twice as much effort in mentally to even try that. So like when I learn the drums and stuff, I have to do that every single day, and I have to repeat what I learned yesterday, because I'm gonna write it down every single time. Otherwise, I'm not gonna have that in my head. So it's very interesting,
yeah.
but yeah, positives and negatives to everything. Oh my gosh.
I guess you get to experience, like, let's say you watch a movie and it's really good. You get to experience it again in due time.
Yeah, dude, that's what I
Yeah,
tell people. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I freaking love you for saying that because I say that all the time. Like, for music, that's how I can tell, like, a great song from an okay song. Like, I can tell you that, hey, this song, there's not a lot of passion in it. I can tell you right now that I'm not going to remember that tomorrow. But there have been instances, and that's why I'm so in love with music, and that's why I plan to get more and more into it. That I hear an amazing song, well done, production is awesome, awesome. Maybe the vocals are perfect. You know, everything's awesome. I can actually wake up tomorrow and tell you the name of it and who wrote it. You know,
Yeah.
which is insane. So I say that stuff too. So every single day I could listen to that and I'll enjoy it like it was the first time, every time. And that's what I see myself doing with your song that we played earlier in the beginning of the interview. Because I can just see myself wanting to listen to that if I'm in a shitty mood. Like, oh, it's awesome. It just puts you in a good mood. And there's not even words to it, but I love songs like that too. Oh, that's awesome. Fuck yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. What? Hey, 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 hey. You're okay. You're okay. I know. Life is hard. Um, okay, so the next question. Do you have a favorite hobby? Do you watch TV shows, anime, etc.?
Um, yeah. I do
Yeah.
watch a bunch of stuff. I watch anime, seasonal anime, and a big reason for that is because I like anime, but the reason I watch whatever's airing right now, is because if I do that, I can't binge watch anything, because there's only one episode of each show each week. So I'll just pick a
Oh.
bunch of shows I'll follow, and then there's gonna be an episode of that every week, and then I get to watch that in my break while I eat. Um, so I'm always really caught up with like what's airing right now and what people are talking about because yeah, I just think it's interesting.
Oh,
Um,
hell yeah.
I also think the stories behind the production of anime are very interesting.
Yeah.
These people are seriously passionate people, and the stories that come out of those types of fields of work are always very inspiring, and they hit home too because I do music. It's very different from animation, but also not really. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I tend to relate to that kind of thing a lot.
Fuck yeah. No, that's awesome. I watched have you seen One Punch Man?
Yeah, yeah. I
I like
love
that's
One
fun.
Punch Man.
Yeah, hell yeah. I thought that was a fun show. I've only really found because I'm very picky. It depends, like if I want to watch it that day or something. But like when I'm high as hell, that's my favorite show to watch. One Punch Man. It's just so nice. I'm just like, oh my god, oh my gosh. I love how chill he is, and then he just fucking murders. You know what I mean? It's awesome. It's freaking
Yeah,
awesome.
the story behind One Punch Man is also really awesome. Um, it's like a really amazing success story. Um, because the author, he goes by One. He's not a particularly amazing like mangaka. He's not the best drawer. Like he cannot. Yeah, if you look at the source material for One Punch Man, it doesn't look particularly amazing or detailed. Like he just writes the script basically, and so it originally started out as an independent webcomic. Like he would just publish that stuff to his website because it's fun, or it was like a webtoon type of forum.
Yeah.
Um, and then it got really popular, and then it got a manga adaptation. So basically, some other artist redrew his whole story, uh, but like
Oh
with high
shit.
quality drawings, basically.
Yeah.
And then that got even more popular, and then they invited him for the anime. So they were gonna animate the show, but the staff on One Punch Man is like the best fucking animation ever. They got these awesome people together for it, and he was there the whole time, helping, as far as I'm aware. And I hired a bunch of freelancers from Twitter too, because the budget was uh, a lot lower than it usually is for animation of this quality.
Yeah.
Um, but they were all incredibly passionate about the project, so they made One Punch Man really good and uh, really beautifully animated.
Yeah.
Even though the budget didn't allow for it, like it's kind of a miracle how good that show turned out the first season.
It's
Uh,
kind of a
and
miracle.
and then the show was also a huge success. So I think it's amazing that like this guy who made the original story, he's not even really that good of he's really not that good at drawing, but then he
Yeah.
gets like the most awesome anime adaptation ever. That's so
True.
sick. I love that.
That's so fucking sick. Yeah. No, I honestly I didn't know any of that stuff, so that makes it even more like amazing to me. So frick yeah, and
Yeah.
I wrote that down too. I wrote that down too because oh my god, oh my gosh. So we have two more questions left for the interview. Then we will jump into questions if anybody has any questions, and then we will play. Well, I'll do it at the same time. I'll do like what I did last time because that worked out a lot better. And I'll play the upcoming song. So, so what were specifically? You might have already said them, but I'm gonna ask it again. Did you have any jazz inspirations specifically?
Um. Well, I mentioned earlier that when I was a kid, my dad would put on Charlie Parker sometimes, and Miles Davis as well. But I actually didn't remember any of that music by the time I started producing. It's only now that I'm back in college and I'm, studying jazz that I'm like, wait, I know these songs. I listened to
Yeah.
these as a kid. Um, and only sometimes. And I'm like, hey, can we play that music again? It's nostalgic to me in a way.
Oh
In
wow.
multiple ways. Like Japanese jazz is nostalgic to me because of video games, right? And like normal jazz is nostalgic to me because of my dad.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, I don't really look at uh, Charlie Parker and Miles Davis specifically when I'm trying to write jazz. I feel like the things they did, they kind of developed forward into all the modern music that I like that uses that kind of harmony. Um, it obviously sort of originated from that area and those people, but it's developed more, and I look at the newer incarnation of it rather than the old origin, if that makes sense.
Well, that's
That's
really
how I feel about it.
cool. You do like try to mainstream it in your own way? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah, and also if I want to figure out how to do something jazzy, or like, um, yeah, like my favorite jazz harmony tricks come from songs that are a lot newer than those
Oh,
things.
okay.
And also a lot of them come from video game composers too. So
Oh, that's cool. That's
that
really
those
cool.
people obviously aren't Charlie Parker, but
Yeah.
they do use the same techniques in different ways.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Holy shit, that's pretty cool. I wrote that down too. Yeah, I wrote that freaking down too.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. So here's the last question. And this is like kind of the last question I wanted to go off of for this before we play the next song. But where do you see your music going? What's the big picture? Well, what's the big idea?
Okay, yeah. Well, I plan to try to make music for a game at some
Yeah.
point. I'm looking into that right now. I've been practicing scoring a bit. Um,
Ooh.
so that seems to be something on the horizon. In the long run, I plan to obviously create much more music and work together with my friends. Um, and I always have things in the work, and I'm always working on developing my style. I
Oh.
also want to do something with visuals, like a bigger focus on visuals, so I can use that to develop a live show. But that'll come in due time. So
Gotcha. That's
yeah,
awesome though. Those are some good goals. Some people don't have any goals. They're just like in the moment. They're like, we're just gonna see where it goes. But that's really cool that you have like an idea and like a picture. That's really fucking cool. I love that. Ooh,
yeah.
I will actually, and I don't even play games that often. But if you came out with like some music on a game, I will play that game. I will play it. I just to hear you. I mean,
That's
that's
awesome.
like
Yeah,
fuck yeah. And I'm not even that big about it, but I'll do it. I just to try it
yeah,
out because like I never even thought about like when I do play games, like I don't think about the music in the back, or at least I didn't before. But now that I've met you and see what you want to create and stuff, I'm probably gonna pay a lot more attention to it, and it's
yeah.
probably a lot way cooler than I thought.
Yeah, I think I want to add on to that. I think a lot of people don't really take video game music seriously as like a music thing. Like if it's video game music, it's like video game music. But truly, I think these people are absolutely genius composers.
Yeah.
Um, Especially the people I mentioned earlier. Oh yeah, Tim Fallen is also one of those people. Tim Fallen and Jake Kaufman are amazing. Uh, Tim Fallen is somebody who wrote video game music in the 90s for like
Okay.
old consoles, and he's known for making these absolutely mental arrangements for games that don't really suit that at all. Like he would just go completely ham every time and push the system to its limits.
Oh my
Um,
god.
and I fucking love this guy because what he does is like there are a bunch of interviews with him online, and recently there's been a resurgence in people listening to his work. Um, and he's surprised that people even care about it. And he's got on record in interviews saying that he hates video game music because it all sounds fake.
Oh my
But he's like
god.
one of the best composers.
That's fucking great. This is that how it always is though. It's like you to do something you don't like, but you end up being the best at it. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. That's funny.
I think it's hilarious. He's awesome. Yeah, but yeah, people don't really pay attention to it because it's like the background to a movie or well, usually movie music, at least in Western movies, like mainstream Western movies tends to be pretty mundane. But like the more indie you get, usually the more interesting the music is and the more experimental it is. Also, some anime have very great music.
Oh
Um,
really?
yeah. But whenever I'm playing a game or I'm watching a movie, yeah, I definitely always pay attention to it, and I've infected my dad. I live with my dad. I've infected him with the curse. So we'll be watching something, and then after a scene is over, he'll be like, "That music was really good," and I was like, "Yeah, I agree. You heard it too." I was
That's
paying attention to it.
awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that sounds like a good bonding experience. Are you guys really close?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I love that. Holy shit. Well, we did it. We got through the questions. So we did pretty much the interview, and fuck yeah, that was awesome. It doesn't even, like I
Nice.
said, at the beginning I was nervous that I wasn't going to be like as upbeat as I usually am, but oh my gosh, I'm just amazed. I'm amazed at myself all the time. So anyways, I'm going to
I think you
be
did great.
thank you. I appreciate I think you did great as well. You freaking winner. You winner, you. Oh my gosh. So, anyways, I'm going to be playing this song. This next song. Is this song something that is out yet? Or I'm Here?
Yeah, it is already released.
Okay, gotcha.
I made that song in 2019, but I really like it, so that's why I picked it. It's a
Oh,
remix for Aiobahn. He's a Korean house producer,
oh
and he
wow.
did a collaboration with a Japanese vocalist, and he asked me to remix it together with my friend. Um, so that's what that is.
Oh, fuck yeah. So I'm going to play this, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in there, and then after the song is over, you can read them off if you would like to and answer them. But here we go. How exciting. Oh my gosh. Okay. 輝いた世界いつの間にか迷子になって自分のことさえもわからなくなってたんだ思い出して心走り出したあの気持ち未来は誰のものでもなくこの手の中にこうしてまた作って何度も生まれ変わってく沈み記されてない道を右とに探している言い続けて誰かのせいにして諦めなだけなんてもうやめ So if you would like to read off the questions, you definitely can. That was fucking
Uh,
awesome.
thank you. Yeah, it's I'll just start off with Aiden Silver. He said it gives him Nightcore vibes. That's because it's really fast. There's a scene in Japan of people who make this thing called techcore, which is like really fast, complextro music. And since I was remixing a Japanese vocal, the original song is house tempo, so it's quite a bit slower than this. I
Oh
was like,
wow.
oh, I'm gonna do that thing that they're doing there with the tech core. I'm gonna make a tech core song, um, and that was really fun to make. But I was producing most of it during the summer, and it was like 34 degrees.
Fuck,
So
holy
every
shit.
time I listen to it, I'm kind of reminded of how hot it was in my room when I was making that. Especially the middle section that day was torture.
Mm.
But I was pretty tight on the deadline, so that's how it goes.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's cool.
I don't have all the questions cached. I don't know if you had chat open this whole time. Um,
Oh, I can look at it.
somebody, Aiden Silver also asked if I've seen Black Lagoon. I have not seen Black Lagoon, but I have heard of it. Let me see. Yeah, this is. It's been recommended to me before, actually. Wait, let me see.
Yeah.
It's Studio Madhouse. Yeah, I've heard of this show, yeah, but I have not seen it yet. Um, I've heard Cyberpunk music. I actually haven't played Cyberpunk because when it released, um, I heard that it was really incomplete and glitchy. So basically, I'm just gonna wait until they finish patching the game, and then I'll play it in like a year. So I did buy it day one, but I haven't played more than I don't know, like 30 minutes of it. So I'll be waiting until the day that's done to play it.
Fuck
So yeah, I'm not really familiar with the soundtrack, but I know they had a whole team of artists making like a custom cyberpunk radio for it, which is awesome.
oh, that's dope.
Uh, uh, I know about Mick Gordon, and I think he's really cool. He has this panel. A lot of people bring up Mick Gordon as like the most epic video game composer because he did this panel at GDC where
Uh-huh.
he explains his like mindset, and yeah, that was a really interesting panel. I think what's cool about the music he makes for Doom is that the like super crazy like guitar pedal thing that he does to make all the really loud distorted sounds is actually not too dissimilar from the things bass music producers do virtually. Like when people make dubstep, they kind of do a similar thing to what Mick Gordon does in Doom.
Yeah.
Um, Especially like drum and bass and like neuro techniques are very similar to it. Um, but I think it's really cool that he decided to do it um, for a game, and also he kind of reinvented it in a way because his approach was I'm not gonna use guitars, or he wasn't allowed to use guitars in Doom, so he wanted something that was equally aggressive and uh, like deaf and hell sounding. So he just stacked up a whole bunch of distortion and he filtered out all the mids, and then he ran simple stuff through it, and then it comes out sounding like a tornado, and then he would use that to make the soundtrack. And he talks about how film and game composers, they all just use their template, but if you want a different result, you gotta switch up the approach or something, he said. So
Yeah.
yeah, people look up to him because of his approach for the Doom soundtrack.
Oh, hell yeah. I've
um
had people send me
and I think the
songs from
Doom
that game.
soundtrack is awesome. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you heard it?
I've had people send it to me a few times because I can definitely like I've heard of it before. Maybe I'm not able to like specifically my English, but yeah, no, but I get you. I get you.
Yeah, what would I buy in prison for 200 cigarettes? Well, I probably wouldn't have 200 cigarettes because I don't smoke. But if I did, I'd buy. I don't know what can you even buy in prison for 200 cigarettes? Obviously, I'd want out, or I'd just sit it. I really don't have any business in prison. I don't think so. I don't know. Like, what would I even do to get me in prison?
I don't
Um,
know.
I hmm. It's a good question. Maybe I would want an instrument to play or uh, a sketchbook to draw in.
Oh,
Those are my two options, I think.
I don't even know what you're allowed to get
Some
in prison.
I don't know either, so that's why I don't know. But yeah, something to help me pass the time for sure. Um, I do know Hans Zimmer, and I'm not really too familiar with his scores. Like I have watched lots of movies with his soundtracks, but I don't listen to those outside of me watching the movie, so I can't name any. Um, but I know the Hans Zimmer songs from the memes, if that helps. I heard the Interstellar soundtrack is really good, but I need to listen to it still. I haven't done that yet. Yeah. Do I speak Japanese? I do not speak Japanese, but I am learning it. There's a dude who I'm friends with who teaches me a little bit from time to time.
That's
I have a
cool.
bunch of friends who live in Japan, and when I talk to them, oftentimes the conversation goes through Google Translate or DeepL because otherwise we can't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it would be really cool if I spoke Japanese so I could talk to them properly. Um, if I could speak Japanese. But yeah, I'm not there yet. I know like really basic grammar and like uh hiragana and katakana, which are like the two phonetic writing scripts, but they also have Chinese loan characters. There's about 2,000 of those you need to learn about before you can read everything. Like the average Japanese high schooler learns 200 kanji. Sorry, 2,000. And I haven't had the time to get into that yet. I haven't started. I know a few just from like recognition, but I don't know them, so I cannot speak or write any of it.
That's cool as
Um,
fuck. That's so cool though.
if I if I used the Vocaloid, I would probably just like do like la 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 or something like that. um, would you write with any tools using AI and Timbre transfer? Uh, absolutely. If it would save me time, I would do it. And you could probably get, a bass music. I'm really interested in bass music, and a lot of people they just fuck stuff up as much as possible, and then they turn it into music, kind of like Mick Gordon, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I think if I used AI to make music, one of the first things I'd try to do with it is confuse it, so it would do things that it's not intended to do, and then I probably get really weird sounds, and then I could use those.
Yeah.
Um, that's what I would do. Like if there's an
That's
AI that's made for voice, I would try to get it to do different stuff. Like what if I make you sing C10, right? Like 6 octaves too high, what happens then? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's cool.
do you think AI will take over most jobs and will we see huge breakthroughs in AI in our lifetime? I think AI will take over a lot of mundane jobs that people need to do to make minimum wage.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
I'm also uh, contender. Is that how you say it? Like you support it?
Con- content? What?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me make sure. No. I
No.
think I like the idea of universal basic income, which is like the last thing you're going to see in the US. Um,
Oh
but I
god.
think something like that would counteract the AI job problem. And I think if a lot of people didn't have to do mundane singular tasks in like if the amount of human workforce necessary to do production is minimized, then more people can spend time doing artistically fulfilling jobs, which I think is cool. Although, obviously, it would saturate the market more. I haven't really thought it through,
Yeah,
to be
that's
honest.
so weird.
I'm
Yeah.
going on a whole thought train there. Um, I think in the end, things will be okay. It will just change how things are. It's kind of like if you ask me in the year 1999 what the internet was going to do to jobs, then I would probably say that it would replace a lot of them and
Yeah.
that it would change how people work. but that it would probably be fine. And here we are. I think it's going to be very similar with AI. It's difficult to imagine right now, but it'll definitely happen and change things in the
Yeah.
future. Um, and I definitely think that the AI breakthroughs will keep happening. We've kind of reached um, a silicon shortage, but also a developmental barrier. So, uh, like computers are getting increasing, like decreasingly, yeah, like every time a new computer part comes out, the difference between this one and the last one is smaller.
Yeah.
So the development of computer technology is stagnating compared to the early 2000s and the 90s where it
Yeah.
was like above exponential. So I think now the main thing is going to come from efficiency, like people making uh, more efficient AIs to
Yeah.
do more with the things that we have, because right now the way things look is everything is being done very inefficiently. Everything is
Yeah.
being done very inefficiently with very powerful hardware. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
I have used sausage fattener, but I don't use it anymore.
What? Wait. What?
Somebody asked, "Have you ever used sausage fattener?"
What the hell is
It's
that?
a, it's an audio plugin that distorts sound and
Oh.
compresses it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's really popular. Well, it used to be really popular with people. You put it on and you like inflate the sound a little bit.
Gotcha.
The difference is that the internet is a communication technology and the AI is a thinking technology. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I think AI will remain a companion tool
Yeah.
for the time being. Um, and what it will be like when it stops being that is impossible to predict. Um,
Yeah.
but I think for the foreseeable future, probably at least the next 20 years, AI is going to be complementary, and it's just going to save time when doing things. Um, and it'll be a more efficient way to program stuff um, that would otherwise be very complicated. Because
Yeah.
the thing with neural networks is that they're relatively resource efficient, usually.
Usually. Yeah, of course. There's always a usually in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me scroll up. I guess. Did I miss any questions?
I don't know. Maybe I don't look at the I don't look at anything. Like I don't see how many people are in here. I don't look at the chat because I of course I would just want to focus on you. So I don't really know what's in there. But
I'm scrolling.
oh, there's one at the
People are
bottom.
in. Did I miss one? Which programming languages do I write in? Well, since I made the Life Enhancement Suite by, okay, I have to achieve this thing. What's the best way to do it right now? And just Googling solutions for every problem in a step by step sequence. I used AutoHotkey, which is like a programming language that's specifically made for automating stuff on your computer, but not really much else. So it's a very single purpose thing that I can't really do much else with. So I'm like an auto hotkey expert, unfortunately, rather than something that I could actually use for something else. Uh, and I also did use Lua for the Mac version, which is a very lightweight programming language, but it's also relatively uncommon. Like if you want to like actually make something serious, get into Java or Python, preferably Python or C, a variation of C like C plus or C sharp. That's what people use if you're like actually a professional programmer and you want to make professional programs.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I
Oh
kind
my
of
god.
did the quick and dirty, if that makes sense. Um, yeah.
Well, that's freaking awesome.
I'm really not an expert on alcoholic drinks. Um, I barely drink, so I'm not gonna be able to guess yours. Um, I really like mojitos. I think if you want to make me happy with an alcoholic drink, you should give me a mojito. I like how fresh it is, especially during summer. It's really nice.
Oh hell yeah! Wait, how old are you again? I just forgot.
I'm 20.
Oh my gosh, you're 20. That's so cool. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm like that person. I'm so sorry, but that's really fucking cool. I don't know why. I just thought you were 21. But that's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
fucking
well
cool.
I'm almost 21. I turned 21 like next month, so that makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah. Happy
Oh yeah,
birthday.
also I guess you're not supposed to be drinking in the US before you turn 21. In the Netherlands, the legal drinking age is 18.
What the? Oh
So
my god, that's freaking nuts. Dude, I'm happy it's 21 here because, like, I mean, was I drinking before? Yeah, but, oh my. I mean, do you guys drink before 18, anyways?
there are people who do, but not me.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Hmm.
It
But,
actually used to be 16.
oh my god, holy shit. It's fucking nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really low compared to the US.
Well, mojito is great. Yeah, I gotta try one. I don't know if I've ever tried one. Now I'm gonna be drinking them all the time. I'm gonna be like, oh, I did this interview. I learned about mojitos. Now I just have mojitos.
They're awfully sweet.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. Can I can drink anything though, but I think that's because like I'm an alcoholic or some shit probably. Cause like I'll just drink whatever. It's a terrible thing, but I work my best at it. But anyways, I am beyond excited to see because this interview will be posted on YouTube just to let all of you guys know. And I am super freaking excited. I think you give a very special and rare type of perspective into the community. So I'm excited to see how this turns out and how it goes and stuff. And
Nice.
I want to give you a big freaking thank you for wanting to do this and being so cool about it and being as chill as you are. Well, what did you think of the interview?
It was good. Thanks for having me.
Of
Uh,
course.
mm, I guess if you're here, then you should follow me on Twitter.
Fuck yeah, you can freaking put the link in the chat if you want. Go for it. You can
I
freaking.
I I like that stuff. Twitter is a nice platform
Oh
sometimes.
really? I don't have a Twitter. Like I thought Twitter was just so. I mean, the first time I ever saw it, I was just like, oh, hi! Oh my gosh, it's you. Thank you for
Yeah,
the
it's me.
follow. That's funny. That's
The
so
bot
funny.
actually doesn't allow me to post the link. I just got banned.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I don't allow links in my thing, but you could put like your
No, that makes
username or
sense.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just inverted silence. You'll be able to find me if you look for it.
Got you, got you. Well, this was fun. Thank you again. And like Georvity will also be letting me know when it will be posted on YouTube, so I will get you or have you updated of when that goes on, and I'll tag you and stuff like that. So, but
Nice.
it was great meeting you, great talking to you, and I hope you have a great day.
Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye.